All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this August 5 session of the Cross Project Council. Um, do so please to get started, add your name to the minutes docs that I just shared in the chat if you haven't done so already. And we will have a short private session at the end, last 5 minutes to discuss travel fund. And do we have any announcements? We have no announcements to make. So I guess we should still briefly mention the conference, which I don't have the dates for at the top of my head. Does anyone?
October 14th through 16th.
Thank you. And tickets are still on sale. Um, and I also believe that there is still coupons for maintainers to get a discount. I think that's still a thing that's going. So just wanted to make sure that we did mention this. Any other announcement outside of JSConf? None. All right. Board meeting updates. So some progress here. We did have a board meeting now 3 weeks ago. We did meet to go through the deck and see what part of the deck was shareable, and did figure out what the process for sharing that was with the CPC. And I want to link here the relevant governance, the relevant part of the governance doc that we had written for this. I shared it in the chat, and I'll also add it to the minutes directly. Governance for sharing board info was CPC. And so essentially, this is done by this is done in a non-streamed private session for CPC members. That's what we had agreed to in the past when we were doing this. And so that's what we're planning to do. We will not do this time. We will do this in the next session, which is still before the next board meeting, so that we can have a last pair of eyes, Robin's eyes, on the deck to make sure that everyone's happy with what we're able to share. And after that, moving forward, we hope to have a better sense of how to speed that process up and be able to do those sessions in the right after the board meeting and not like right before the next one. So that's the plan. Any questions on this topic or thoughts or comments? I know this is important for a bunch of folks, so I think it's good that we get those back into working mode. No questions? All right, let's move to the next topics on the agenda. Staff updates, all of these. I don't think there's much. Is there anything waiting on board? No, waiting on legal info. Still the loop back thing. Waiting on staff update. Well, that would be Kylie, but she's not there on the Dev Connect GitHub program. Ben, Kate, do you have any? No. All right, so that we'll have to wait for the next call. Kate, you had something? Oh, no, that was Megan. And that's it for those labels, I think. Okay. And then I think we could get back like directly into the agenda. And so thanks a lot for Chris, who helped reorganize today's agenda so we have better grouped issues and can make more progress, faster progress. So let's start with 1521. That is an easy one, as promised, Chris. Thank you.
Just
Uh, so
just
please.
merge it. Just merge it. It's been open for a couple weeks, has a bunch of approvals. The Express
Yes.
project decided a little while ago, uh, like months ago, to it was like we were like trying to figure out how to update the email mailing list for COC reports, and we were like, I don't know that we want to make the TC manage any COC things that come up. We really get no reports in general anyway, so it's a very low, knock on wood, we can always, something could always happen, but we really just don't need to deal with the additional work involved in that, and we can just say here the CPC can deal with it, and Express maintainers can focus on maintaining Express. So that PR just removes Express from the list of projects which handle their own incident response.
Merged. Toby, you're on mute.
Oh yeah. So I just merged this. And moving on to the next issue. So we have issue 1528, 1523, and 1522, and to some degree 1470, but let's not get directly to that one yet, but just the three issues, 15, 28, 23, and 22. They're all related to sort of like the same question and the same concern, right? And this is a concern that was raised by folks in the Node TSC around whether record keeping was compliant with GDPR. And so in a case like this, of course, like the foundation has a privacy policy, right? And this privacy policy is something that the board of the foundation manages in collaboration with the staff, with the ED. And so it does touch on, obviously, the COC, which is the CPC's responsibility. But the idea is essentially how can we not duplicate stuff in the COC that belongs somewhere else or that belongs in the under the authority essentially of like a different governing body. And so that was like the initial thought in, and now I'm trying to figure out which one is the pull request. Is that 1521? No, that's the one that we just did. It's 1523, right? So that's what I offered to do in 1523. That's essentially saying, add to the record keeping obligations when handling a COC incident, right? Add that it has to abide by the privacy policy, which was implicitly the case before. Now that makes it explicit, right? And essentially, tie the privacy aspects to the record keeping obligations, right? And then, because the concern was what happens when there's an escalation or an appeal, right? And then just make like the escalation and the appeal about that the transferred information is the one that's being recorded, right? Which makes sense, right? So that kind of like, just essentially that ties everything to, ties every sort of like privacy concerns to the first step, which is the recording itself. That at least makes it like clear that we're doing the thing in one place. And then I think there was a few follow-up concerns, right? One of those concerns was, does the privacy policy actually meet, like address just like COC handling in general? And so I opened it up a separate issue for this. It The answer is it kind of vaguely does because it talks about governance aspects and things like this, but probably would benefit from like having either the board or the foundation's council like check on it and see if like it makes sense or not. And then lastly, sort of like in the discussion there was in the pull request, it also sort of came up that sometimes something could be like not clear for someone handling a policy sorry a code of conduct violation. And in that case it would I believe it would make sense to add as the responsibility of the COC team to address questions of projects who are having an issue, a question about how to handle a COC request, right? And who could then escalate it to the right entity, right? If is this something that needs to be escalated to the staff or to the council or to get information from elsewhere? It felt like this could be the COC team could be like the right group to be handling questions from projects handling COC issues. So that's kind of like what's in that pull request. And then there's, the question of like the privacy policy itself, and I believe that's addressed in, well, I mean, it's not addressed. There's an open, there's essentially sort of like two issues, like 1522 and 1528, that kind of tackle the question, right? 1522 gives a description of like the hypothetical sort of like concern, which is like very specific GDPR articles and sharing information that falls under like a very special category of that. And then 1528 is sort of like a broader sort of like, do we bring this to the Foundation's Council to get like input on the privacy policy? That's kind of the background. So, Chris.
Yeah, I just want to mention that like myself and probably the others. All right, so for some background, and this is probably how these issues got raised, is that some of us on the OpenJS code of conduct team are currently in the process of handling an appeal for a COC issue. And because it's ongoing, I am hesitant to comment on these things because I don't want there to be any perception at all that myself or the other members of the COC team handling this appeal are, influencing, or what I mean, like while this process is ongoing. And so I have lots of thoughts on this stuff, but I'm hesitant to share. And at the same time, I don't want to like block progress or say you can't merge changes, but like that's kind of what I want to say. Not because there's anything I necessarily disagree with in particular, but just because I feel like me and the team are sort of, I feel like our hands are tied until we can resolve this matter. Our hands are tied in terms of providing feedback on these.
So I think it's a very good. Oh, sorry, I thought you were done.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is the moment that you start invoking GDPR and legislation, and those are, it's important to be mindful of those things, but it gets really tricky for COC team people to do what they're tasked to do if they are concerned about personal liability. And like now I need to hire a lawyer to make sure that I'm not going to be personally in violation of something. So like, and then if there's a bunch of different prescriptions about what can be done and when, that can also be very difficult to navigate all of that. And so it's a lot to ask for volunteers who are doing this work, that they need to be navigating legal frameworks very particularly. And if ultimately that's the requirement, I would find it very difficult to do that, like on a volunteer basis and with people who are not lawyers or legal experts.
I think that's all of those are very fair points. I think a few things. First of all, regardless, I mean, unquestionably, these issues were raised as part of going through this appeal, right? And I think we can make a decision right here as the CPC, and I think it's the only reasonable decision to make, really, is that this appeal was what was there, right? And whatever changes we do are not going to affect this appeal, right? I mean, that's a decision we can make. It's not a hard decision to make, right? And that, allows to have conversations on this topic right now if we want to, knowing that it's not going to affect this appeal materially. It could affect it it could affect the perception of neutrality of like folks being on the COC team right now if they have opinions about this stuff. And so, if the general feeling is, let's not discuss this now, and let's just move those conversations down a few weeks, I think that's perfectly fine. Now, on the second part, which is the concerns around liability, so I am not anyone's lawyer, and I'm just like actually not a lawyer at all, so that makes it like fairly easy. What I do want to point out, being through my consulting firm, fairly involved was EU regulation, not GDPR, but related, that the goal of legislation like this is in Europe not to go run around very small organizations accidentally not following specific aspects of the law to the letter, right? But to deal with, in the case of GDPR, in the case of the CRA, et cetera, like large sort of like pan-European concerns around specific issues. So folks shouldn't worry too much about a concern like this, in my opinion. And I think it will be good to get counsel sort of information on that topic. And then remembering that the case that is raised in this issue, and that is in these three issues, is a very specific case where someone shares in a chat their political views, which is a highly classified, like high level of like privacy information in Europe that is different than anything else. And what happens if this is stored, right? And frankly, the minute you're actually typing it into a chat, it's sort of like it's in Slack, and by typing it in Slack, seeing it there, you kind of know that it is there and stored, right? Because you couldn't come back to see it, and you've signed a bunch of by going in Slack, you've signed a EULA that covers that kind of stuff through Slack, right? So this is a very, we're spending a lot of time on a corner case that is, in practice, a hypothetical corner case. Right? So I think it's important also for people not to like get too concerned about this. I think it's a good it's a good issue to actually have a look at the privacy policy and see from the perspective of a council if it actually meets the requirements, and if the board is happy with it, and if the board and the council are happy with it. Potentially share a few more instructions as to how this needs to be handled. I think that we can just continue on our merry way, and probably shouldn't be too worried about this. Yes.
Yeah, so that's all fair and helpful. Yeah, I think ultimately it would be ideal if whatever comes out of this, there could be a very concise guide or list of things that folks dealing with issues need to be aware of. Just so we can feel like we're, that we're not overstepping something we're not supposed to step over.
Yeah, absolutely.
And stuff like that. Because right now, like if you look at the privacy policy, you kind of have to like, we're left on our own to figure out how that applies to how we're dealing with incident response. And you know what I mean? Because it's not tailored to that at all. So,
No, so in the privacy policy, absolutely, yes. I mean, and frankly, like, from my understanding of GDPR and the privacy policy, like everything but like super corner cases are covered with what's that, and you don't have to worry about it. Like this is just essentially if you need something to comply to law or to do business or to like run your organization or your business, right? You don't require external consent to do this, right? And this is clearly the case, and this only becomes an issue, right? If it is around very specific items like political opinions or things like this, where storing that information requires sort of like additional checks, right? And it's even debatable whether, even if you did this, you would actually be infringing. And from a GDPR perspective, it's the organization that's infringing and whoever the officer is, and that's not going to be anyone on the COC team. I suspect it would be either Robin or the board members. The board um, is aware of liabilities that ties to COC issues, and that hasn't been mentioned as one. If that's also helpful as information. So overall, I think it's good to clean this up. It's good to have like clear guidance, but I wouldn't worry about this too much. So we move on? Or do you have, or folks have more questions here? Is next steps on this? Essentially not moving forward with anything until we've got we've raised it with the board and got either the board to make a call or decide to loop in the Foundation's Council.
Seems reasonable. Are they tagged with
They're not tagged with anything right now. I mean, except like being in this call today.
Yeah. All right. Maybe I'll just go through and add the board label.
And we should raise them for the next board meeting. And we can also, you know what, add the like a legal advice thing to all three while you're at it.
Okay. The only board label is board approval required, but or no,
No,
waiting
it's
on
not. I think isn't there like a waiting on the board or something like
waiting on
this?
board. I got it. Yeah. Thank you. Waiting on legal.
I think it's probably all four issues, right? Because the fourth
Yeah.
one is also about sharing information, and
Yeah, that's a fair point.
that also is associated with that record keeping and
Yeah.
It's a fair point, though. I think there's my understanding is that all projects from a legal perspective, are considered as being part of the same organization. And so I don't know that sharing, like interest sharing like this actually is a thing. But I'm not sure. So yeah, you're probably right that it needs to get reviewed.
that's a super interesting point that I had not considered. Um,
I'm not sure. Let's
and
just
yeah,
stick a
sure,
label
sure,
to it
yeah,
too.
yeah, no, but that's a really interesting
I mean,
perspective
it's
because
all the same foundation from the
right. So if you're sharing among teams within the foundation, is that yeah, how does that change the calculus?
it's I
Or
mean, from
does
a
it? I don't know.
GDPR perspective, it's all under the same umbrella, so it's the same. So you're not like I don't know the terms. You're not passing into a different org, um, and it has you have to have a business reason to do it, right? You can't just share for the sake of like, oh, that's fun. We're going to share it, obviously, right? But
Right, if
if you
we're all
have
acting in good faith, then yeah, yeah.
so anyway, yes, let's just add to those and let's move on to 1255, right? So this
Yes,
would be
I just want to make one last comment on that.
sure.
Yeah, I mean, that very well may mean, and again, I do think we need to get some direction about this from legal, but that very well may mean that that's not meeting the definition of sharing under the GDPR. Maybe. I'm not saying it does or it doesn't, but it might not
Yeah,
meet
I
the
mean, I
definition.
looked at this, and so essentially, the thing with the GDPR is every time you do anything with data, whatever it is, even if it's like pulling it to delete it, right? It has the same impact, right? Which is why I stored everything in. The moment you store it, you have to make sure that whatever you store is fine. Because like even retrieving it to check whether it's fine or not is considered like the same as if you were
Data processing.
talking about it, right? Yeah, it's all called processing. All of it is processing, right? Um, and so sharing in that sense is also processing. So it's no different. But I don't believe that it falls in like I'm sharing this with a different organization kind of thing. Because it's not. It's the same org. Anyhow.
Okay.
So all of these we decide to ask for board and or legal advice. Um, pause decisions until then, right? And I'm going to do the same here and here and here. Well, that was effective. 1255, which is onboarding and post-graduation checklist to match new COC policy. Well, that is not a
Yeah, so I think this is another one, if you scroll on the bottom of that one, where we're waiting for the contributor covenants, and then we're going to kind of batch, I think, a bunch of updates.
yes. All right. And
Uh,
so V3 of the contributor covenant landed, actually. I had to look at it.
yeah, yeah.
Um, do we have an issue on that topic also, or?
It's the next one. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is pending 1457, right?
Yeah, I think we essentially need to move to the new COC, or sorry, contributor covenant, and then
So
we have updates for projects and such that we're going to work with Kate to
Yeah, so I did look at it, and we'll need to wait for legal input on it because there are aspects of the new contributor covenant that would directly be in conflict with sharing information internally, for example.
Okay, I'm gonna put the board and legal labels on this one too.
Yeah, and let's just say that we need to wait on other COC issues around privacy, and potentially adapt V3 accordingly.
Yeah, so my expectation is once we get, essentially the thumbs up from board and legal, we'll figure out how to integrate it into the
Yeah.
OpenJS. We might need preamble or, some kind of clarifying language or what have you.
Yeah, or possibly just changing some terms. I mean, the COC, this new version is kind of designed like even more so than the previous one as make it yours. And so, for example, it doesn't use project leadership. It uses, what terms does it use to describe the COC team? Community, um,
Stewards or
uh, no, not stewards. Anyway, it doesn't matter, like a word. And it's strongly suggested just replace it with whatever you use. So we could potentially do something like this.
yeah.
And then so
And I was going to say too, Kate, from a procedural standpoint, as we start to land this stuff, we should just gather the other things, all the things that we want to communicate to the projects and be able to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Just one blast to them instead of a bunch of little things, I think is going to be more efficient.
Yeah.
Oh, and on this topic, by the way, one of the things that occurred to me, and I don't know what people think about this, but is what if we had like a lot of projects have a sort of like repository that is there for governance or like managing that kind of stuff, right? And what if we knew what repository was, what repo that was for every project and just filed issues in there? We could even automate this.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought.
I'm sort of curious what, if what projects would think about this. And if people think it would be like an easy idea or a welcome solution or like a complete drag and no one wants this.
There are very few projects have a dedicated repo for this.
Yeah.
Like Node, I think, has an admin repo for this kind of stuff, or I don't remember the name. Express has a couple of repos. Some stuff's in one and some stuff's in another. But I think most projects haven't had the need to have like a dedicated repository for administration stuff or governance stuff.
I mean, I know a
Yeah,
bunch of projects. AMP
Electron's
has
a lot.
one too. I think jQuery has one, but I'm not sure. I don't know about Lodash. I assume not. But like sort of like thinking the projects I'm mostly familiar with. I don't know.
We used to even keep track of some of this stuff on the CPC repo. We had a table of the projects and we had like a link to their charter and a link to
We still
their.
have
Yeah,
this.
that's still there in the README.
I think
Yeah.
some of the information was removed. I think the charter maybe is no longer a column. Anyway, my point is we kind of move backwards. I don't think this is a bad idea, but it would take some legwork to, I think, put together, but I think it would be productive and helpful probably for maintainers to have issues to work from or PRs to work from rather than just getting an email and being like, oh shit, what do I got to do? Or, whatever.
Yeah, right now it has on the README, it's project, charter, and contributing guide.
Oh, it still has the charter. Okay.
For
Yeah, I
some
don't think we
projects
removed
anyway.
anything. We might have removed like a bunch of columns that had nothing in it. That's
Yeah.
possible.
Many charter
Um,
columns are blank though.
But I think it's kind of different, right? The idea would be like, do we? Well, I mean, I don't know. I just like it. We were just wondering about this, and I was like, oh, what if we could just like, open, have a script that opens like 35 issues, in the right place, right? And then that makes it like a sort of like an easy way for people to then address it as they want to. I don't know. Anyway, that was a proposal. We can think about it again. Um,
Yeah, I think it's a good
Yeah,
idea.
yeah, no, it sounds good. I just think as I was just saying, in some cases that repo might just be the same as the main project repo.
And if folks are happy with this, then it's fine. Like the problem is if folks really hate the idea, right? If projects really don't want this, and like it could be just an opt-in thing, by the way. Like it's like send an email to the list, and like a pull, and open an issue on those who have like opted into this. And if a bunch of folks want to do this, and we can write a script to do it, then maybe it's an easy thing to do. All right. Um, so that would be, where are we now? I'm kind of confused. Oh, so that,
We're close
because
to needing to go to the
there's a
private.
bunch, there's
I
a
think we're-
bunch. This is 1525 also, because like this, so part of it is
1525.
like 1255 and like part of it is 1525.
Yeah, that would definitely be part of like the group of things that we'd have to send out to projects.
Um, okay, so here's a proposed next step for this, right? Um, what if we just write an email to the list, to the maintainer list, right? That says something like, "Hey, folks, we have a bunch of updates on sort of different governance aspects that are going to come up. Um, Folks who want us to open issues about this in their own repository um, can sign up somewhere." And now, like I'm saying this, and I'm like, "Oh my God, what if something is not clear? Where are they going to raise that issue?" Chris.
Um, so we went through this a number of months ago, where so I see there's an issue specifically for website footer, right? But some months ago, we were talking about this problem holistically, where
Yeah,
there's a whole separate repo
absolutely.
project onboarding, and lots of projects, including some very large ones and ones that have been around for a long time, still haven't done like some of the things, right? And we found this when we were trying to get Express graduated to an impact project.
Yeah,
We found some of that large stuff wasn't done. And so basically projects are in a various states of, for lack of a better word, compliance with the requirements for projects per, you know, the progression,
absolutely. Yeah,
project
for
progression
sure.
doc and other documentation. And so at that time, we had decided that to send some kind of form. I think we had some like a Google Doc that we had written up during a working session about, contacting the maintainers of each project and linking to the issue and stuff like that. And then I
I
think it
think Kate
kind
has
of
done
fell
some
through the.
work on this.
I haven't made a form, but would it make sense to have maybe a page in GitHub that outlines all of these changes? I guess I'm just not sure how we can push it to all the maintainers at the same time.
Chris is talking about something different,
Yeah.
which is past projects who are not up to date was like past expectations.
Mhm.
And I was wondering if you had done some digging into this like a few months ago.
Like projects that are existing already that aren't in.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've gone through some things. Part of the website footer is about that. A
right.
lot of our projects aren't using the footer that we designated. and there's a few other issues as well. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Right. So this is a follow-up on the thing that Chris was just talking about.
Yeah.
And so I guess now that you have a list of like who's not doing what, the question becomes, how do we follow up with this?
Mm-hmm.
And so we are back in the conversation that we had 3-4 weeks ago, where we discussed, do we sort of batch these together? And then we like went on a tangent on like how exactly do we do this? Or do we do these like one by one, right? On a sort of like ad hoc basis.
Mm-hmm.
And we sort of moved towards doing this on an ad hoc basis. But then at the same time, we have a bunch of things, right? And so, um, you know, hence my suggestion to figure out a way to like drive this and keep track of it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Chris.
Yeah, I would just I'm trying to find. I would just really like to find the notes from that meeting or couple of meetings, because we had like, here's what we're gonna do, and we had already hashed it all out, and and then I don't know what happened. But it would be great if we could just see where we were at there, and because again, we just spent a bunch of time like on this problem and had sort of established a direction to go in. So it'd be cool to be able to dig that up.
Was it a CPC meeting or a working session?
It was discussed in both.
Okay.
Do the working session notes make it into the repo?
Not usually.
No, something mostly in the issues.
Okay.
So whatever we do, I think we should continue that conversation in 1486. Which is this one. And we should probably
I have a date here, May 28th. Here, I'm gonna just share this in the chat. This was the message to maintainers. There's not a lot there, but maybe that date can help us track down the meeting notes. This was created on November 5th.
I remember this conversation. Yeah.
So meetings around November 5th. Let's look for the notes there. I'm not saying we have to pause what we're doing here, but that's
right. For the sake of time, I can dig through this afternoon and see if I can find the notes you're referencing.
Yeah, and I really feel like we're going to need to be proactive. I think that maintainers already have too much on their plate and are probably going to see an email like this and be like, no.
yeah, that's why I suggest we should track it, right?
Yeah.
Can we in the board, in like the GitHub boards, can you track stuff that's across orgs that you don't have control over?
I don't think so. Not without some, meta issue in your own repo or something, I think.
So folks who are maintainers and who are on this call right now, how would you like to get this information to you?
Specifically what? The notification.
Anything that needs to be updated, sort of like the CPC like figures something out that needs to be fixed. Like there was a new policy of some kind, new regulation that forces us to do something, right? Like suddenly you have to have like a privacy policy in the footer. I'm just making stuff up, right? Like projects have.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, projects have to update their stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
How would you prefer being made aware of this?
Well, my first question is, I mean, I don't actually know what is the communication like, or the how do I put this question? Do OpenJS projects have to nominate a certain member to represent or person to represent that project um, to the OpenJS Foundation? Do we have like a point of contact with
So
projects?
yeah, there is a list and there's a maintainer list, yes. But people are not always responsive on that list. Um,
Okay.
and and I'm also specifically not trying to problem solve this. I'm trying to ask if you're a maintainer and you have things that you would need to do, um, how would you prefer that information be communicated to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I was only asking in case there was some level of like there's like a certain individual this should go to, but if there it sounds like there isn't, and it just needs
Well,
to go
there
to the
is, but I mean,
project.
yeah, but it's a project thing. Yes.
Yeah. Then in my opinion, and I definitely see some hands raised, so maybe other people have different opinions. Um, I see no issue with literal issues being opened on a main repo of some kind. The worst thing that happens is that issue can get transferred to the right place. The worst thing, you can close an issue. That's not very consequential. We operate in the open. I think honoring that is helpful. That way, all of the maintainers will get notified, and that's usually pretty helpful. So yeah, that's my answer.
Chris, thank you. It's
All right,
super helpful.
it's all coming back to me now. I just shared the issue that kind of started all of this, and I've retagged it with CPC meeting, so we hopefully don't drop the ball again. The original context was that there was this project status repo with all of the onboarding issues and lots of projects with open onboarding issues, lots of checkboxes left unchecked. Some of them have questions from maintainers that never got answered, and so here's where we were at. We were going to transfer the issues from that repo into the main CPC repo. Then there's a comment here from Toby from Notes from the Working Session. Identify the maintainers and champions where appropriate for each project. If there are open questions, i.e. on the onboarding issues that haven't been answer the questions and tag the individuals, and otherwise tag maintainers in an issue, like a new message on the issue, asking them to update the checklist to reflect the current state of things. And then the idea was if tagging them in that way didn't get their attention and failed to respond, then there would be that additional outreach via that message that we crafted in the Google Doc. And then we decided to do all that, and then we dropped the ball. And then I saw Ben has a comment here from March that onboarding new projects, and he's going to be using the CPC repo and created a project board. So I think we just need to connect these dots together.
Fair point. So yeah, let's bring that one back. And we have like only a few minutes left, which means we should probably have a working session on this topic next working session, and actually start going, do the work. Why is it blocked? Why did I add? This is so dumb. Like my thing is doing something silly. Are folks okay with doing the working session on this? We're gonna drop into the private meeting right now. Is there anything right before that we absolutely have to get an answer to that we should have a bunch of folks looking at in the next couple of days? All right, hearing none, I think next working session next week will be on moving this stuff forward. And if not, we'll see all of you in 2 weeks in the next CPC call, and we can now close